So you're a plain cheese man, or you just cheese and pickle, or maybe exotic like brie and cranberry, or a little bit out there with cheese and strawberry jam. Well, the cheese is all gone. So many thanks for all of the suggestions that I've had by email and comment for what happens next. And a bit of a throwback to all you old rockers out there. Remember the sensational Alex Harvey band and the next album? It was a belter. But what's coming next on the Yarslow channel? Well, I've got 9 suggestions, and in no particular order here they are. The first one is signalling, which, as I've said before, is a massive subject, but I'll try and cover off the basics of signalling. That's semaphore and colour light. Touch on ground signals, and I'll do a little bit on signal wires and signal boxes, just to sort of link the whole thing together. It comes as no surprise that people want to see another running session. I like running trains, and obviously you like looking at them, but I'm going to roll into that a piece on reliable operation, how to avoid derailments, what happens when you get loco and stock problems, and also an interesting question on the weight of models and if there's any direct correlation between the weight of the real thing and the weight of the model. I know it's something the Americans are quite keen on, us in the UK less so, but we'll run all that together as a running session. Next, I've had a request for a piece on the locomotives that are Yarslow. You've seen a lot of them running during the running sessions, but I'll specifically run through what I've got. And then an interesting one on brake vans, what you do with them, where they sit in the train, how you shunt with them. And then a little piece on pilots and shunters. And finally, I've roped into this a little piece on securing loads, which is something which I find quite irritating, where you see lots of layouts where the loads are just balanced on the back of wagons. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Now, something I've touched on before, and I will reiterate again in a separate video just to bring it up to date for you, and that is pickup freights. Somebody asked for something specifically about pickup freights in the BR era. It's no particular difference to how it was in the old days, other than perhaps the trains are a bit shorter, but I'll talk about pickup freights. And again, reference back to our American cousins who love their freight train orders. They have a completely different approach to operation than we do. And I think there's a lot to learn about the way the Americans do things. But I'll talk about how pickup freights work on the Yarslow layout and some of the other ways in which wagons move around the layout. That brings us on to signs and line side equipment. A couple of requests for this. If you look at the railway even today, there's a load of signage and line side equipment. It was no real different in the steam days. It's amazing when you look at a photograph of a train that was perhaps taken in the 60s or even the 40s, the amount of line side equipment that existed, and you don't even notice it until you start looking for it. So we'll talk about that for a little while. Now, somebody brought up the subject of point rodding. It's okay, I'm still on the medication, but I'm getting over it. You'll know that point rodding sent me quietly mad at Yarslow, but I'm quite happy to talk about it now in retrospect, and we'll have a look at where the point rodding should be, what it does, and within that a quick look at facing point locks, which is something which somebody brought up. Interesting subject. We'll cover off what you do with them and where they should be. Now, another one of those massive questions is, what should my layout look like? And I think specifically what we're talking about here is stations and yards. Is there a right and a wrong way of laying out a station and a yard? Well, yes and no. It's got to be done so that the trains can do what the trains have to do, but there are some Board of Trade rules that need to be followed. So we'll talk about what's right and what's wrong. And finally, separate from the running session around the layout, I've had a couple of questions on the operation of a terminus, and specifically Trinity Square, and the operation of the locomotive shed at Trinity Square. So I'll do a little video all about the operation there. I've done a couple of recently, of course, as you all know, on the developments, but not necessarily what happens with the trains. So on the basis that I try and get a quick bite once a month in terms of the video output, I've got 8 or 9 options there. So That keeps me going for a few months. No doubt some others will come to mind in the meantime. But there we go. Thank you very much for your feedback. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some more things with you, some of which I was kind of half thinking of and some of which I wasn't even thinking about at all. So that's great that you've come back to me with your suggestions. Another update coming on scenic developments at Yarslow and one or two other little surprises. Stay tuned, stay safe. I'll see you soon.